All right. Before you have any buyer's remorse here, yeah, we're going to read the New York Times and Fox News, but I'm not going to teach you how to do that. We're not going to do a lot of it. If you clicked on this video for any other reason than you're interested in Retraice and what we're doing here, you're going to be, I don't know what you're going to be, but you're here for the wrong reasons. But still, hang out. Okay. This is Retrace segment 25, Friday, October 21st, 2022. 11:30 p.m. Retrace is about what's going on out there. And today, we're going to read the news. We talked yesterday about reading the news. Let's read the news. But, you know me, we have a few preliminaries. Okay, I'm gonna race through the sprint. Ready? I realized 3 hidden assumptions in everything that I'm saying. Here they are, as I was preparing to do this segment. Number 1, by asking what's going on out there, we're implying that the answer is not readily available. Okay? So we take that for granted. If you think, I know what's going on out there, we don't agree with you. We don't know, you don't know. This is probably because biology has not equipped us for the new environment in which we find ourselves. We evolved at a certain time in the history of the universe, and this is a different time than that. Our only hope then is mental and cultural adaptation. I'm not going to go into that, but there you go. Hidden assumption number 2. Further, we're implying that new work is needed to find it, i.e. find the answer to the question what's going on out there, and we're doing it. And perhaps even new workers are needed, and we're the new workers. That's a hidden assumption. You might not have realized that, or I didn't realize that I didn't point that out explicitly. Finally, one more assumption. We're also assuming you have the motive to find out what's going on out there. You cannot take this for granted. I'm sure you know a lot of people in your life. You might be one of those people in your own life. You're just not motivated to find out what's going on out there. That's fine. You shouldn't be here. Go away. Our motivation is that nature is not effing around. The belief that nature is not effing around. We've discussed that previously. You can go find that. And also the related belief in real deadlines. Okay, hidden assumptions out of the way. World model number 2. We talked about world model number 1 yesterday. We've got a newer version today. It's simpler. It only has 2 points. It tries to roll up the 4 that we had before into 2 more organized points. The first point is computer control is suffusing GNR, GCR, BNR, and the 3 kinds of intelligence. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back. You can learn all about that stuff. And point number 2 of World Model 2.0 is to check this computer control suffusing hypothesis, we need information from trusted and integrated sources. That might seem obvious, but obviousness is not so obvious sometimes. Okay, let's talk about the news. What we're going to do here is I'm going to go to the New York Times homepage. I'm going to talk about what I see. I'm going to use a cheat sheet for doing what we should be calling collection and analysis, or collection and analysis, quick collection and analysis on the fly. If you're using the terms, in terms of intelligence agencies, the terms from, what am I saying? Collection and analysis are 2 different disciplines within intelligence agencies, and when you read the news, you're doing both of them at the same time. So we're going to do that, but with a cheat sheet, so we don't lose track and just find ourselves reading stories and becoming unduly influenced or running away with ourselves. What is the news? What is a newspaper? What is a news website? New York Times and Fox News are not exactly apples to apples. New York Times is a print-based organization. Fox News is TV-based, so to read the Fox News website is not really fair to Fox News because that's not where they're really putting their efforts. Whereas with the New York Times, that's definitely the case. Anyway, what am I going to do? I'm not going to sit here and watch TV while I'm doing a live stream. It's good enough for now. Let's say this about news sources. Mainstream news sources focus on variety and appeal. They're like a grocery store, sort of. They've got a lot of different stuff trying to attract different people. They're not just selling one thing. They're selling lots of things, most of which you don't buy, but the thing that you want or the few things that you want are there. And then, there's some overlap with other people, but they can attract more people with that variety. And they're selling the appeal of that. But unlike grocery stores, ultimately they're selling hard to get information. So let's say grocery stores have hard to get products, like food products mostly. That's the equivalent of the information that mainstream news sources are selling. But this is different. Almost all mainstream news sources are also selling your attention. In the case of readers, we're going to read today, they're selling your attention to advertisers. And you don't know what the proportions are. You don't know how much they're selling this hard to get information and how much they're selling your attention, or how much money they're making from either one, or whether they even know, whether the people actually creating the content or chasing down the news stories actually know what proportion of their efforts are profitable as compared with the efforts of the advertising division. Okay, they're a good starting point, but there's no obvious way to trust them systematically the way we trust a bridge. It's not obvious, but we're going to try and apply a little cheat sheet here to get a feel for what maybe we should be doing in a perfect world when we read, quote unquote, read the news. Okay, we're at 6 minutes. Jesus, this is going to be. We're not going to let this be long, but that was a lot. Here's my little cheat sheet. Call it the 8 M's, a cheat sheet for quick collection and analysis. M number 1, medium. We need to separate the medium, the physical layer, from M number 2, the message. We need to separate the medium from the message. So when you look at a news website, I can tell I'm going to get into methodology. I shouldn't do that. Separate the medium and the message. Number 3, if there's any math to do back of the envelope, do the math, or at least be aware that there's math to be done. You can catch people making mistakes and lying pretty easily if they violate mathematical logic. Follow the matter, follow the money, follow the motives, mice. What does MICE stand for? Compromise, ego, money, ideology, compromise, and ego. And then just, try and think about who the makers of the content are and who are the masters. The makers are the detail people, let's say the tacticians, the people on the ground putting the paper together, if it's a newspaper, the reporters chasing down the stories. The masters are the owners and the allocators of the resources, and the resources are reflected in the money. Okay, that's it. That's our cheat sheet. Now we're going to jump over to, and now I've got on screen here, I'm going to have a tiny little browser window, because the point of this is not to show you these news sources websites, which might get me into a little bit of a headache with algorithms that might accuse me of trying to rebroadcast copyright content. So it's a tiny little window. The point is not for you to read the New York Times or the Fox News homepage. I just want you to have a little thumbnail of what I'm looking at. I'm going to narrate what I see. Where should we go first, Fox or New York Times? I need to flip a coin, because I said New York Times first in the title. We'll go to the New York Times first. I have not looked at the New York Times homepage in preparation for this. Probably 12 hours ago was the last time I checked. I'm a pretty regular New York Times reader. Not so much Fox News. Full disclosure, I'll talk a lot about that why, but not today. Let's just get into it here. It's NY Times, right? I'm in an incognito browser, so nothing's auto-completing. Okay, here we go. Everybody ready? Okay, what am I seeing first? Top of the page is just an advertisement for more New York Times stuff. Okay, that's that. Fine. They're advertising for themselves or different parts of their own business. The above the fold, Donald Trump right above the fold. Okay, that's not surprising. January 6th panel subpoenas Trump, setting up legal battle over testimony. Okay, below that, Steve Bannon received a sentence of 4 months for contempt of Congress after defying a subpoena. Senator Lindsey Graham asked the Supreme Court to spare him from testifying. Spare him from testifying in a Georgia election inquiry. And almost above the fold, I can see Federal Appeals Court temporarily halts Biden's student debt cancellation. That's on the news side. On the other side, sort of the more culture and opinion side of the page, we have how George Clooney and Julia Roberts became the Tracy Hepburn of our time. Tracy-Hepburn of our time. All right. It's variety. It's a grocery store. They're selling more than one thing. We have a little bit of weather and a bunch of sections that we're not going to go to. Let's jump over to Fox News and see what they've got. Okay. Any advertisements? Oh, a big one. But also for Fox content, the Patriot Awards at Fox Nation win a VIP experience to the Fox Nation. I mean, this is blocking out my whole screen, so I have to react stronger to this than I did to the New York Times trying to sell me, like, what do they want me to? Oh, they just want me to subscribe. Okay, so the New York Times just wants me to subscribe. They're showing me little flashes on a phone. Cooking, I keep noticing the cooking thing. And then over at Fox, they want me to join Fox Nation. That's kind of the same thing. Fox is part of cable packages, but I've heard since advertisers sort of attacked, I think it was Tucker Carlson where they really made the move, but when they realized that they were vulnerable to advertiser attack, they started focusing more on subscriber-oriented revenue streams. So this may be it. Okay, Fox Nation, Patriot Awards, whatever this is, I'm not going to do it. You want my email address? No. Okay, I want free content. I'm here to consume content for free, and that's what you're offering me. Okay, the MyPillow guy is up on the left. That's an ad. It looks like it's an ad running on a show that's live. Gutfeld, maybe. So maybe that's the live stream of the TV. Of their TV stream, and then Progressive. Okay, great, Progressive advertisement. We've got on the left-hand side exclusive clips from the Ingram angle, major upset looming in Michigan governor's race. Okay, more from Ingram. We've got Friday Follies. Kamala Harris can't stop declaring her love for things. All right, well that's not good, is it? Hannity, what Mandela Barnes, I'm going to have to squint a little bit because I haven't made it big enough on my screen. That's all I'm doing here. What Mandela Barnes is really campaigning on, writes Priebus, okay? But right smack dab in the middle is what I'm not even paying attention to because I'm failing to see the forest for the trees. Cordon Bleu, owner of upscale eatery, gets salty after banned late night comic claims he didn't do anything wrong. Okay, playing with words and something salacious going on there. Biden blocked for now. Biden's student loan handout dealt major legal blow. Okay, there's some overlap with the New York Times. Not model behavior. Deal or no deal models shut down Meghan Markle claims. No bra station. No, what about Meghan Markle's bra? She didn't wear one? Okay, well, that's all right. Countdown to election day. That's cool. 17 days and 1 hour and 18 minutes and 45 seconds. And a tiny ad for Qatar Airways with the weather. Okay. And a TD Ameritrade ad and GMC at the top. Okay. And GMC down here as well. GMC is getting their money's worth. New York Times, any new ads popping up? It's not as fully utilized. There's white space on the New York Times above the fold. Okay. Do we scroll down? Do I click through? I mean, okay. What have we seen so far? The basic idea we started with, they're selling hard to get information and your attention. So on the Fox, can you see that? On the Fox News page, GMC is getting my attention because I went to Fox for news. GMC is getting a little slice of that. That's fine. Advertising is almost certainly better than the alternative that would supplant it if it were outlawed. I've talked about that previously. We're not going to go into that. On the New York Times homepage, they really want you to subscribe. That's their first priority. What if we scroll down? Do we see any more ads? Not as many on the homepage. I think the New York. Oh, here's one, but it's not even loaded. Right? That's pathetic. There we go. Okay, this looks like it might be a Google ad, Google generated ad. No, it's not because there's no little triangle. Plastic surgeon tells, if you have wrinkles, do this immediately. Okay, so what the New York Times thinks is they're going to get you focused on the news for a minute, get you scrolling, and then hit you with the advertising. But if in a New York Times article, you'll get a different proportion of advertising. There's a Camille A. Brown's latest dance challenge. Okay, we're scrolled way down here. We've got the opinion section of the New York Times when we scroll down past the fold. What happens when we scroll down Fox News past the fold? Cops. All new season is here. Okay, that's an advertisement for Fox stuff. Unfair and unsafe school district. Okay, so what are we doing? We're not just going to keep... All right, so it's got my attention, right? Like there's colors and there's interesting stuff going on, and great, that's what I came for. How does all this line up with our little cheat sheet here? The medium. You have to think about how this got to you. This is a web page, which is behind the scenes a website. This is not TV. This is not... So I think in the case of the New York Times, probably most if I could see their numbers, I would probably see a surprising proportion, if not a majority, of people consuming New York Times content not via going to their homepage. Either they've got the app installed or they're getting it via social media. New York Times, Fox News, probably more TV, right? These are just guesses. I'm not going to try and find out. It's not important right now. So that's the media we're talking about. What are the messages? I've read them. I'm not going to analyze the stories or at least the headlines at this point, but they're distinct from how we're getting those messages. Is there any math we can do? Not really. I didn't notice any math any back of the envelopes that would reveal anything about what we read there. So let's follow the matter, the money, the motives, the makers, and the masters. The matter. Well, look, to put these things together, you got, in terms of web content, you got people hunched over computers all day or pounding the pavement, going out, finding out what's going on out there. That covers at least the makers. The masters, the ownership of Fox News is the what's his name? The Murdoch family now, and New York Times. I don't remember what the latest slice and dice of their ownership is. I heard Carlos Slim's big. Bezos is in on the Washington Post, so that's every private company has owners. It's not just knowing the ownership doesn't tell you everything you need to know, although you need to be aware of owners. Motives. It's hard to get into motives with such a glance at the papers here or the pages, the home pages here. But can we safely say that there won't be motives other than money, ideology, compromise, and ego? And is there any compromise? Is anybody reporting for Fox News, the New York Times, because someone's got some dirt on them? I don't think so. We're not dealing with intelligence agencies here. We're dealing with open source intelligence. Okay. So that's a first glance at the news. As you can see, there are two directions we can. So we're not going to go to either of these websites or any other website. I mean, once you've read a news website, you've read them all in a sense. They all sort of follow the same format, and they're all trying to get your attention for the same reasons, either to convince you to subscribe because they have information that you can't get anywhere else. They're trying to be your little personal private intelligence organization, and it's usually they're trying to sell some of that attention that they get from you in addition to your subscriber fees. Sell that attention to advertisers. Okay, so they're all sort of the same in that way. What we care about, if we're asking what's going on out there, is the message, or let's say the information that might or might not be present in any one of these pages, these web pages, or throughout their websites. And to gather it is just to go there and to be aware of, Biden's student loan handout deal dealt major blow in legal battle. Okay, well that's the message, but is that really what's going on out there? I mean, don't we have to run that through a little bit of analysis? Well, of course we do. If you're an avid if you're a Fox News fan. You're going to take that at face value. If you're a New York Times reader, you're probably going to squint at it a little bit. I'm way more of a New York Times reader than Fox News. So full disclosure, my bias is there. I can definitely detect it. But getting at the truth, finding out the answer to the question, what's going on out there as regards that specific story, is much, much more complicated than that. We have to consider things like the resources that are going into everything that's getting to us. The medium itself, the messages on the medium, and that's all these people behind it. There are all these people. They say about the tech companies, the FANGs, that the way that you should think about, especially apps on your phone, is that they are, there are hundreds or thousands of engineers working all day long to try and get you to interact more with your phone, or in particular that application running on your phone. That applies to news websites as well. Maybe not thousands of engineers, but hundreds and hundreds of people, if not into the thousands, depending on where you start and stop the boundaries and do the count, how you do the counting. What are their motives? Well, it's very easy to impute motives, or to think you're seeing something and shoot from the hip, right? We've talked about shooting from the hip and not shooting from the hip. Okay. What about the people who are making it? There's Chomsky and Herman did manufacturing consent, which was sort of a critical study of how there's sort of a filtering process and a selection process that goes into who becomes a reporter, and thereby what is a valid story and what isn't a valid story. That's to do with masters and makers. Masters are the allocators of the resources. They're strategic, and the makers are the detailers, the people who go and do the legwork, and they're tactical. They have motives. They're human, right? We're not talking about scientific instruments that are just putting data in front of us. We're talking about human beings mediating in addition to the actual physical media that are getting this information to us. Okay, there you go. That's the first pass at reading the news. The thing that we care about is really, is there anything in there that's true in what we care about? Or what is true, and how do we find out the real truth? How do we find out what's going on out there? Not what the New York Times says is going on out there, and not even the New York Times. It's like one writer and the editor signing off, right? That's what a story is from a news source. It's one or two. Sometimes it's half a dozen writers. The big stories do, but that. No, I don't. Do I want to know what that person says? Because you can't know what they think. You can only know what they say or what they write in the case of a written news source. These are things to think about when we read the news. Okay, that's it. That's enough for now. We've gone over time a little bit. Anything else? Okay, references from the segment will be in the show notes, full PDF notes at retraice.com, retraice.com. This is Retraice segment number 25. We'll see you around midnight. Signing off.